Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a Rune and Tarot Divination for the 3rd of January, 2022. It's a Monday, a moon day. We have a 3 numerology for today, so creativity and optimism and all of that. We're on grandbaby watch, so be aware of that. January 15th is the due date. And we're supposed to go and take care of the kids, but that involves going over a mountain full of snow. So we'll see how all that goes. They do have backup people in case, the timing isn't just perfect and we're there in time for them to go. And then there's also the issue of they don't know where they're going to have it because staffing issues. The hospital that they're supposed to have it at is already told them, I don't know, maybe, maybe not. You might have to find someplace else. So it's like, here we go. So grandma's on pins and needles. Anyway, one thing I wanted to tell you about the forecast that I put up Monday through Friday. I've changed that. I've broken it down into 3 parts, and I'm doing a separate weekly, numerology, which is up. The ascendant, rays, and other weekly influences. Some of those change and some of those don't. And so I just thought, this is redundant every time. And so I've got that in a weekly post now, and that's up on the blog. And then the forecast will then shift to something called correspondences for that particular day. And that's just correspondences for work and magic. The rune divination will be there, all of that. So that way, if you're not interested in one thing, you're just interested in the other, you don't have to be scrolling down to find all that stuff. So that's what I've done. All of it's up for today, although the forecast is, I already did Monday's forecast before I decided to do that. So that's up on the blog already for Monday today. So the big long one is up. So look for that if you're interested. Let's see. Everything else, all of where I am, if you click on show more, it's all underneath the video. So links are there. So anyhow, let's get going here. I think I did everything. I don't think I have anything else to share with you guys. So I had already drawn the rune. It's Othala. And Othala, if you look at it, it's all Kenaz. The light of spirit, torch, clarity, all of that. Illumination. And I really think that as the last rune of the Elder Futhark, although there are some rune masters that will put Dagaz at the end. And I've tried it both ways, and I finally just settled on Othala being at the end. Dagaz is about the end of one phase and the beginning of another. So that's why I think that it could go at the end of the Elder Futhark, but realistically, what you're talking about here is the Akashic record overall. And you're also talking about ancestral heritage and possessions and tradition and legacy and family. A little bit more comprehensive or collective spirit oriented than maybe Birkenau is. Birkenau is also about family. And that's bringing something to fruition. So it could be the birth of a child, for example. Protection is involved in both. But Othala is a little more ancestral in all of it. And so it's got Ingus at the top, and then it's got Gebo at the bottom, but comprising all of that is Kenaz. So I really think that it tells us that not only are runes a language, but they're a language of spirit. And instead of thinking the traditional mind, body, spirit triplicity, I think what we really have to think of this as is spirit or higher self, soul, which is what is in these bodies, and then personality or ego. I think that's really probably a more realistic triplicity to think about. The flow of spirit into the soul's awareness that may or may not remember it's a soul while it's in the body, and then as it gets caught up in the goings on of life, and you start fixating on that, and you forget to remain in an observational role to simply learn from the experience. Instead, we get into the muck of it all, and the ego takes over, and so and then we start functioning from that standpoint instead of functioning as an actual soul that's having a higher level experience here. And so I think that's really part, at least, of the concept of ascension. Ascension, I don't think, simply involves your soul ascending to greater heights, greater dimensions, greater resonance. I don't think it's simply that. I think it's also how we manifest here in form as well. Are we going to do that from an ascended reality, an ascended awareness? And so I think that that's part of it. It's not all of it, but I think it's part of it. So I think the runes help us to do that by reminding us, we actually are our spirit having this physical reality experience here, and we need to keep our values and principles and all of that, our awareness, in a higher level of awareness. And so Athala, as the end of the Elder Futhark, I think brings all of that together, that we are beings of light, and we're here to not, get so caught up in the ego that we can't see that. So nice way to start a Monday, this first Monday of the year, the new year. 2022, you have a 2 there, but then you also have a 22 there. And so 22 is the master number for the cosmic builder. That's profound soul level change just within that part of the 2022. And then 2 is about balance. And so I don't like to ever combine anything with a master number, so I'm going to leave the 22 there always, and then see what else we have. Well, we have a 2, and that's healing and reciprocity and balance and love and compassion. It's also decisions, the decision to do all of that. Let's see what we have for the rune for today. Well, we have Pur, which is a scattered little boy energy. Where do we have it here? There's Puella. I can use that one. There it is. It's a lack of impulse control. So whereas the the spirit is showing this as above side is Othala, so there we have the higher energies coming in and illuminating and awakening us to spiritual truth and all of that, and that side of reality. We're also on the below side, the earthly side of things, with the geomancy rune. We have Pur, which is again scattered little boy energy. It's lack of impulse control. It's not particularly evil like Rubius might be, but because that's the more adult version of that sort of experience. But at the same time, it can get into all kinds of mischief too. So that's what we're contending with when we're trying to look at everything from an awakened perspective, to see things from the totality, the wholeness of it, instead of the either or of it, which the minute you start separating that out and start focusing on only one aspect of things, then your perceptions get skewed, and that's when the ego can really take over. So I think that's really what that's about. So let's see what the cards have to say, though. Let me move I don't think my tea is, maybe it is. Yeah, I can drink it. Okay, so let's get the cards drawn here. Now, I've already shuffled a whole bunch, so because I've started this a couple of times. But let's see what we have. We're going to start with. Okay. We have the Sun, the Page of Swords, and the Six of Pentacles. So we've got, well, with the Sun, you've got the fire element. With the Page of Swords, that's air. And with Pentacles, that's going to be earth. And so that's the elemental influences here. The 19th card of the Major Arcana, that's a 1 energy, no number on the page, and a 6 for the Six of Pentacles. So overall, we have a 7 numerology for the reading. I think that we'll start with the Sun. I don't know what order. We may leave this in the same order. We may read it that way, but let's just take a look at the cards first and we'll see. Here we have the Sun. We see the Sun up above, its rays extending everywhere. We see it's about vitality and success and new beginnings and the will, if you will. And we have some sunflowers behind the stone wall. There is a kind of a masonry type of a wall. We see a child on a white horse, again signaling purity and newness. We see a red flag sort of waving in the breeze, denoting victory and success. And so we're greeting the day and then on this first Monday of the new year, we're greeting the new year basically with awareness and awakening again, Othala, with an understanding of the wholeness of things, with its one energy. That's unity. That's unity conscious. Well, zero is also unity consciousness, but here we have leadership. We have with the one, we have, let's see, what do we have with the one? New beginnings, wholeness, unity, leadership, as I said, self-determination. But here we're on a new path, I think. And the Page of Swords next, we see the page leaning with the wind, basically. You see the wind blowing, and he's leaning in the same direction. Although the sword is over here, he's basically suggesting that there's something new happening. But with the swords, you're talking the air element and the mental side of life, the intellect, reason, justice, balance, fairness. And so if there's a message, pages are about messages, they're also about undeveloped potential. If there's a message to be had here, he's actually looking toward the past to have that inform the future. You can see him do that. You see the birds up above. You see the clouds dissipating. And they're not particularly, let me see if I missed anything here. They're not particularly, well, I mean, they're not particularly dark, and so I don't know that there's something awful coming here. I don't think that that's the meaning of whatever message here. But the page is also somebody who's vigilant. He's intellectual. He can be petty. On the downside, again, we're looking at the wholeness of the card, but he's a risk taker. And so it's telling you that with the new day, that there may be an element of risk to what's coming. But it's something that you want to take, especially if you're speaking truth to power or you're standing up for something. That's another part of the swords or the suit of swords or the air element. It's speaking truth to power. And I think that, Tiwaz is a good example of that. And again, Tiwaz includes the rune Kenaz, just like Othala does, and also the rune Isa. In it. And so you're talking about alignment and spirit. That's it's a spiritual warrior within, is what Tiwaz is. And so in a sense, when you combine the two together here, the sun and the Page of Swords, you're kind of bringing in that type of energy here. So whatever the page is doing here, it's either telling you that there's a message that is asking you to maybe step outside your comfort zone today. And in doing so, you awaken to new opportunities, new success, a new beginning maybe. Which may involve, now this is an interesting card, the Six of Pentacles. The Six of Pentacles shows a man of means and two people that aren't. It actually looks like the scales over here. You've got the center point here and each pan here. But you see that the pentacles are not arranged in a balanced fashion. You have this side having less weight than this side, for example. And so basically what this means, the six is about compassion and empathy and shared path and helping people out, assistance, and that's what he's providing. But there's nobody, he's not doing enough that actually elevates these people off of the ground either. And so there's a clear delineation, similar to like a caste system, if you will, or the rich versus the poor aspect to this card. And so I think that the risk is if we're stepping outside our comfort zone, we have to change the dynamic here. And then if you're really, from a societal standpoint, if you're really going to elevate people, the last thing you're going to do is simply give them a few coins, right? It might help them in the short term, but in the long term, it doesn't lift them out of their predicament either. And so I would suggest that either the page is letting us know this, that we need to wake up, that how we either have, in our country, we either have a government that is willing to help elevate people into a new type of experience, a new lifestyle, by helping them with education, or helping them, like the child tax credit, for example, that I guess ended today because they can't seem to get a vote on that. Well, you've got one side of the coin that doesn't want to supply any kind of assistance to anybody. They're all corporate oriented, and you've got the other side that recognizes, well, we can invest in our people, or we can let the corporate overlords control us forever, and ideally, to raise society, we have to invest in our people. And the six of even though he's sharing his abundance, it's still his abundance. There's nothing about this card that really says, I'm going to help lift you up so that you have your own abundance. And that's kind of the dichotomy, I think, part of that, the wholeness of the shared path that we are actually on, even though there are those that are struggling against that right now. So I think that the impulse with poor might be to think that this is the solution, but it is not. It is setting things. In other words, if we're going to pay taxes into the government, what are we using them for? Is it to help lift society so that we can all learn and grow and develop and become something? Or are we continuing to keep things an us versus them type of an experience? And so I think that really the Page of Swords then is probably, we could probably start with the 6 and then leave the page in the center. So if we did that, we're acknowledging, see, that this is not really the solution. It might be in that moment, but it's not the overall solution to that whole us versus them experience. So you have to take a risk in that regard. The fundamental significator of the reading is likely going to be a thala. And so we're really thinking about what legacy are we leaving for our children? What legacy, what ancestral heritage will they be able to look back on? Are they going to be able to look back and see a country, a world that supported them in their efforts to raise their own level of awareness, or in their own success? Or are we going to be fighting against all of that? A good example is the how people see the pandemic. The pandemic has brought out the idea of we must fear the government, we must fear the CDC, we can't believe anything. That's the one side of it, thinks that but the problem is because they won't take the simple measure of wearing a mask, instead it's kept the virus going and continuing to mutate. All right. And so now we've got this really weird thing going on, the Omicron one, and we'll see where that goes. But I mean, the numbers are increasing dramatically again. So again, we have to awaken to the truth of this shared path that we're on. And are we going to do it from the standpoint of light, from the standpoint of higher awareness, or are we going to let our impulses get the better of us? You see what I'm saying? And I think that if we do, we're going to stay in the more negative side of this card, the lack of balance that this card actually is illustrating. So I think that's it. I don't think we need any more cards. I think that we'll leave the sun at the end where we awaken, when we understand and we see the 6 in a different perspective with the page, moving on into the new year, as he's leaning into the future there, to where we awaken to the truth, so that we can have the shared experience here that we were designed to have. So anyhow, I guess that's it. That's all I have to say for today. Think about that, and we'll get together again on Wednesday, or not Wednesday, but Thursday, for another edition of this, and take a look at the cards and the runes then. I may go ahead though and film these this week and next week ahead of time. I'm still thinking about that. I don't know, but I may get them done ahead of time and just schedule them, simply because I'm not sure what's happening with the baby. So anyway, normally I wouldn't do that. Normally I would just do them on the day, you know. But I don't know. Right now, things are in such an uproar, we just don't know. And I think it might be better to get ahead of the game and so that we can be there for the kids when it happens. So anyway, it's just a grandparent thing. I don't know. They call, we're like, oh yes, we'll come. We bought the new tires. We got chains just in case. You know, they're great tires. They're siped, so they're not studded. They're siped, and they work really well in the snow. Better, I think, than even studs do. I was always a studded tire person. I grew up in Alaska for part of my childhood, and so you always had studded tires up there. But here, I don't know that we necessarily need that, and so we tried them, and boy, we've had them since I think 2012, and we really like them, and so we got another set. But sometimes if you go over the mountain and the snow's dumping really hard, the police will stop you and they will just say, look, we're going to make you put on chains as well. And it doesn't matter if you've got studded tires on or what you have, you got to have chains on as well. And so just in case, we went and bought those too. And we've got the go bags ready and the food bag ready and the waffle maker in there, because we're going to make waffles for the kids, and assuming this all happens, I don't know. It could happen so fast that they have a friend come and there's the baby. So I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But that's the plan so far. So anyhow, you guys have a good day. Have a good week, and come back for Thursday's edition of As Above, So Below. And we'll talk again. And, be good to yourself. Be good to one another. And blessed be.